Husband of the abandoned, the wind was still. The stars above the trees sparkled quietly. Inside the small wooden shelter by the river, James stood at the window. His hand rested on the memory stone, now sealed inside a protective case. Jera sat by the fire, brushing her daughter's hair. Rin leaned against James's leg, drawing a picture of their new home in the dirt. For once, there was peace. But James felt it in his bones. It was the silence before a storm. Just before sunrise, the sound of wings cutting through the air echoed. Across the forest, not birds, not machines, something worse. James stepped outside. A single royal ship landed quietly at the edge of the riverbank. No soldiers, no weapons raised. Just one figure stepped out. The golden-armored alien. Alone. Jera gasped. Her grip on the children tightened. It's him. James stepped forward, calmly. You came yourself this time. The alien removed his helmet. His eyes were sharp like ice. You forced my hand, human. You embarrassed me. The council asked questions. They began to doubt. James held up the memory stone. Truth has a way of surviving, the alien growled. I could crush you. Right here. Right now. James didn't flinch. Maybe. But you'd have to kill me in front of your own child savior. In front of someone who saved a dishonored mother and gave her children a home. The alien looked at Jera. She stepped forward slowly, still holding her children. I was thrown away. You all made sure of that. But this man, this human, he gave me more than your empire ever did. The alien's jaw clenched. James didn't blink. She's my wife now. The kids are mine too. If you harm any of us, you won't just lose your honor. You'll lose your place in the stars. Silence. Then, to their shock, the alien removed a small crystal from his belt. He crushed it in his palm. Let the human records show, he said coldly. This matter is closed. He turned, walked back to his ship, and flew away. Jera stared in disbelief. It's over? James turned to her. No, it's just beginning. Weeks passed. James and Jera walked into the human council chamber. Together. The children held each of their hands. James spoke. Calm, clear. He gave them the memory stone. He gave them the proof. He gave them the truth. The council voted. Jera was cleared of all false charges. Her children were given full protection, and James was recognized as their legal guardian and husband. Months later, back at their new home, Jera stood at the garden James built with the children. She placed her hand over his. I thought I was abandoned, she whispered. I thought no one would ever choose me. James smiled. You were never the problem, Jera. You just needed someone who saw your worth. She leaned into him. You didn't just save us. He kissed her forehead. You made us family. From outcast to a family, from ruins to a home, from strangers to something stronger than blood, storm and fire. The night was too quiet. Even the forest seemed to hold its breath. James stood at the window watching the trees sway in the wind. Jera and the children had finally fallen asleep. But he couldn't. His instincts screamed. Something was coming. Then he smelled it. Smoke. He rushed outside. The wind hit him hard. Behind the trees in 3 directions, orange light flickered. Flames. The forest was on fire. James's eyes widened. They're trying to burn us out. He ran back inside. Jera, wake up. We have to leave. Now. Jera's eyes opened. She saw his face and knew it was serious. She grabbed her children. Rin was half asleep, the little girl crying in confusion. James packed a bag quickly. Water, food, the memory stone. He grabbed his old rifle and looked at the fire growing outside. The smoke was moving fast, chasing the wind. They want to force us out, he said. If we run to the road, they'll trap us there. Jera's voice shook. What do we do? James looked around. There's a tunnel behind the cabin, old mining shaft. It leads out to the riverbank. If we reach the water, we'll be safe. Rusty barked and ran to the back door. The flames were close now, just past the trees. James opened the trapdoor and helped Zara and the kids down. He handed her a flashlight. "I'll be right behind you," he said. But just as he turned to go, he heard it. A scream. Zara looked back. Rin wasn't with her. James's heart dropped. "He ran outside," Zara panicked. "No, he was holding my hand. He must have slipped away." James didn't wait. He jumped back up through the trapdoor and dashed through the smoke. He coughed hard. The smoke was thick. The fire was dancing across the trees, cracking and popping. Then he saw a small, shaped Rin. The boy had run back for his toy, a little wooden figure James carved for him. James shouted, "Rin, come to me." But before the boy could move, two shadowy figures stepped out of the fire. Enforcers. Rin froze. James didn't. He ran full speed, tackled the first one, knocking the weapon from his hand. The second raised his blade, but James rolled and blasted him with a short burst from his rifle. The first enforcer rose again, burned, angry. But James stood between him and Rin, shielding the child with his body. "You want him?" James growled. "You'll have to kill me." The enforcer hesitated. Then something strange happened. Rusty leapt out of the smoke, biting the enforcer's leg and dragging him down with snarling fury. James scooped up Rin and ran. They reached the tunnel just as the fire kissed the back porch. Zara saw them and sobbed in relief. James handed her the boy and said, "Keep going. I'll seal the tunnel behind us." Hours later, they reached the river. Wet, tired, coughing, but alive. Zara sat with her children in her arms, tears falling silently. James built a small fire from driftwood. He wrapped a dry blanket around them. No one spoke until Rin looked up at James and whispered, "You saved me again." James smiled weakly. "Of course I did." Zara reached for his hand and didn't let go. Far away, the golden-armored alien received a report. "They escaped, sir." He stared at the fire's image on screen. The cabin burned, ashes flying, but James was still alive. And now, so was Zara's truth. He clenched his fists. Next time, he wouldn't send fire. He'd come himself. A father by choice. The river was cold, but the water saved them. Smoke still hung in the air, rising from behind the hills where James's cabin once stood. Everything he had built, gone. But beside the fire, Zara and her children slept safely. That was all that mattered now. James sat on a log, soaked, tired, and covered in ash. He watched the stars above the treetops. His muscles ached, but his mind was busy. He had lost his home, but somehow gained something more. Morning came. Rin woke up and walked over to James, carrying a flower in his small hand. "I found this. For you?" James smiled and took it gently. "Thank you, buddy." The boy sat beside him. "Are you my papa now?" James looked at him. The question came from a pure place, an honest heart. He placed his hand on Rin's shoulder. "If you want me to be, then yes." Rin's eyes lit up. He jumped into James's arms and hugged him tight. Behind them, Zara had heard everything. She pressed her hand over her mouth, trying not to cry. Later, James found an old abandoned shed near the riverbank. It had no roof and broken walls, but it was something. He began fixing it, cutting wood, rebuilding with scraps from the forest. Zara helped, nailing boards with quiet focus. That evening, they sat together on the steps. Zara finally spoke. "You could have left us. You could have saved yourself." James shook his head. "I couldn't." She looked at him. Her voice was soft. "You've lost everything because of us." James looked at her face, tired but full of life. "No. I've gained something I never had." Days passed. The small shack became a real home. Basic but safe. James added a door, fixed the roof, and carved out 2 beds from tree trunks. Jera and the kids cleaned, cooked, and sang songs from their homeworld. The place felt warm, even if it was still simple. One night, Rin brought out a stick and waved it like a sword. "I will protect our house just like James." The little girl giggled and copied him. Jera laughed for the first time in a long while. James watched them, smiling. Something deep in him healed. Later that night, when the children had fallen asleep, Jera sat beside James under the stars. She held the memory stone in her hand. "You gave us life again," she whispered, "but they will not stop, you know that." James nodded. "Let them come. Next time I'll be ready." Jera looked at him carefully. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small metal band. "My people call this a bond ring. We give it only to someone we trust with our life." She held it out to him. "I know you are human, and I am what I am. But tonight, in my heart, you are more than a protector." James took the ring slowly. He didn't need words. He placed it on his finger, and for a moment under the stars, surrounded by trees and silence, they were not fugitives. They were a family. Far above, in a space station orbiting the planet, the golden-armored alien received a message. "We found them." He stood slowly. Then this time he said coldly, "I will go myself." The truth she hid. Jera stood in the doorway, shaking. She had heard everything. The enforcers were looking for her. Again. James closed the door and locked it. He looked at her. "They'll come back." Jera nodded. "I know." James poured her a warm drink. "I need to know the full truth, Jera. If I'm going to protect you, I need to know what I'm protecting you from." Jera sat down at the table. Her eyes looked far away. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "My people, they believe in bloodlines, in rules, in control. When my mate died, they looked for someone to blame. They said I was cursed." She looked at her hands. "I stayed quiet, obeyed. But then, one night I caught a noble hurting a child in our village. I stopped him, I screamed, I fought back." James leaned in, frowning. Jera continued, "That noble, he was powerful. He accused me of treason, of attacking the bloodline." She paused. Her hands were shaking now. "They branded me, took my home, took my name. They told the people I was a danger, and if anyone helped me, they would be punished too." James's eyes burned with anger. "And your children?" "They tried to take them, said they would be raised as workers, slaves." Jera's eyes filled with tears. "I ran that night. I ran and never stopped." James sat in silence. He could still hear the soft laughter of Rin, playing outside with Rusty. That little boy had been hunted like a criminal, and his mother was marked as a traitor for saving a child. James stood. "They may have scared others, but not me. You and your children have a place here. I don't care what they say." Jera looked at him. Her lips trembled. "Why are you helping me? Why do you care?" James looked at her with kind eyes. "Because I've seen monsters, and you're not one of them." Later that night, a quiet knock came from James's back window. James picked up his old plasma tool and crept outside. Behind the cabin, a tall figure stood in the shadows. But this time, it wasn't an enforcer. It was a different alien, older, dressed in rags, eyes kind. "I mean no harm," the alien said. "I'm a friend of Jera." James didn't lower the tool. "Then speak." The alien nodded. "Her story is true. I watched her suffer, but I was too weak to help. I followed your signal, the one from your water purifier. I knew it could only be hers." James still didn't move. The stranger said softly, "They will return with more. They don't forgive, and they don't forget." Then he stepped closer and handed James a small stone device. "This is proof of what happened that night. A memory stone. If you show this to the council, they might protect her." James took it. The device was warm, glowing faintly. The old alien whispered, "She saved a child." Now, maybe, you can save her." And just like that, the stranger disappeared into the night. Inside the cabin, James showed Zara the stone. She gasped. Her hands covered her mouth. "I thought it was destroyed," she whispered. This shows everything." James nodded. "Then it's time we stop running." But just as he said those words, the lights in the cabin flickered. Rusty barked, and outside, a deep hum filled the air. Ships were coming. The sky turned red with light. The visit of the enforcers. The sky turned red. The trees shook. James grabbed his rifle. Rusty growled, standing in front of Rin. Zara held her daughter close, heart pounding like a drum. Outside, 3 dark ships hovered just above the forest clearing. Their engines hummed low and threatening. The light from their engines lit up James's cabin like a spotlight. Zara whispered, "They brought warships." James didn't blink. "Then they're serious." The doors of the ships opened with a hiss. This time it wasn't just 3 enforcers. 10 armored soldiers marched out, their faces covered, weapons glowing. They stood in a wide circle around the cabin. Behind them came a tall alien with sharp eyes and golden armor. He looked calm, but cruel. James stepped out onto his porch. His voice didn't shake. "You're trespassing on human territory. You have no rights here." The golden-armored alien smiled. "We do not need permission to remove garbage." Zara stepped behind James. Her body was trembling. The man in gold saw her, and his smile grew colder. "There she is, the liar, the traitor." James's grip on his rifle tightened. "She's under my protection now." The alien laughed. "You plan to protect her against all of us?" James's voice was firm. "If I have to." The soldiers raised their weapons, but James didn't move. "You fire one shot on my land and the Human Council will hear about it in hours. You'll start a war you can't win." The golden alien paused. His eyes narrowed. "We don't fear war." James stepped forward. "You should fear truth." He pulled out the memory stone and held it high. "This has everything. Proof of her innocence. Proof of your crimes. If anything happens to her, I'll send this to every human outpost and every neutral system. Your empire will burn." The golden alien's smile vanished. For a moment there was silence. Then he said coldly, "You are clever, human, but you've made enemies." He turned and gave a signal. The soldiers stepped back. Zara couldn't believe it. "They're leaving?" James didn't relax. "Not for long, he'll come back another way." The ships rose into the air and vanished into the clouds. Rusty barked once, like a warning. Back inside, Zara sat by the fire. Her children clung to her. James placed the memory stone inside a steel lockbox. "You shouldn't have to live like this," he said. "Running. Hiding." Zara looked into the flames. "That's all I've known." James sat beside her. "Then maybe it's time to build something new." She turned to him, confused. "What do you mean?" James looked at her gently. "If I declare you part of my family, they'll need special permission to touch you. Human law will protect you." Zara's eyes widened. "You would do that?" "I already did," he said. "When I stood between you and them." She said nothing, just stared at him, her lips trembling again. And then she whispered, "You are the first person who ever chose me." That night, while everyone slept, James wrote a message. He sent the proof to a contact at the Human Council. He asked for emergency status. But far away, in a dark control room, the golden alien watched. A screen. His soldiers waited for orders. He did not blink. He only said one word. "Burn." The voice in the wreckage. James was walking near the forest edge when he heard a sound. It was not a normal sound. It was weak, like a whisper. He stopped and listened carefully. Again, the sound came. A small voice, shaking, full of fear. He followed it. Leaves crunched under his boots. The wind was cold. After a few minutes, he reached a clearing where trees were black and the ground was burned. In the middle of it was a crashed alien ship, half buried in the dirt and smoke rising from broken metal. The voice came again, this time clearer. "Please." James walked slowly, careful not to make noise. He stepped over broken wires and shattered glass. His eyes searched the wreckage. Then, he saw it. A small alien child, skin pale blue, thin arms, and eyes full of tears, was curled up between two broken panels. The child was shaking. His clothes were dirty, his knees bleeding. James knelt down. "Hey, I won't hurt you. Are you okay?" The boy looked at him with big, scared eyes. Then he whispered, "My mom. She's dying." James didn't ask anything more. He stood up and said, "Take me to her." The boy got up slowly and led James deeper into the broken ship. It was dark. The walls were cracked. Strange alien. Lights blinked weakly. At the back of the ship, in a small corner, lay an alien woman. She was lying on her side, barely breathing. Her skin was dry, her lips cracked. Her clothes were torn, and a deep wound ran across her arm. She looked more like someone ready to die than someone ready to speak. The boy ran to her and cried, "Mama, a human is here. He wants to help." The woman opened her eyes a little. Her voice was dry like paper. "Don't hurt my children." James raised both hands. "I won't. I swear. I just want to help. Want." Then she closed her eyes again and passed out. James quickly checked her pulse. It was weak, but she was alive. He looked at the boy. "We can't stay here. Help me carry her." The boy nodded fast. With great care, James lifted the woman in his arms. She was light, too light, like someone who hadn't eaten for days. The boy followed, holding a small blanket tight around himself. Back at his cabin, James laid the alien woman on his bed. He covered her with warm blankets and started boiling water. The boy sat on the floor beside her, eyes not leaving her face. "What's your name?" James asked softly. The boy looked up. "Rin." "And your mother?" "Jera," the boy said. "She hasn't eaten in 3 days. She gave all our food to me." James felt something heavy in his chest. He brought Rin a bowl of soup. The boy stared at it like it was magic. "You can eat," James said. "You're safe here." The boy didn't wait. He drank the soup quickly, wiping tears as he ate. James cleaned Zara's wounds, gave her water drop by drop, and used his med kit to reduce her fever. All night he stayed beside them, watching, listening, waiting. As dawn came, Zara's eyes opened again, weak but alert. She looked at James. "You're human?" "Yes," he said. "Name's James. You're safe now." Jera turned her head. She saw her son sleeping beside her. Her face changed, a mix of relief and sorrow. "We didn't mean to come here," she whispered. "We were running." "From who?" She closed her eyes. "Everyone." James didn't ask more. He just said, "Rest now. Talk later." Outside, the sun rose slowly, but above the trees a small drone blinked red, watching. Something had seen them, and it wasn't human. Shelter of strangers, Jera woke slowly. Her body still ached. The soft blanket around her felt strange, warm, clean, safe. She blinked and looked around. The walls were wooden, not metal. A small fire crackled in the corner. The air smelled like herbs and soup. Then she saw her son sleeping beside her, safe and breathing, and beside them sat a human. Jera's heart raced. She pushed herself back, breathing fast. James raised his hands. "It's okay. You're safe. I'm not going to hurt you." Jera looked confused and scared. "Why am I here?" James stood up slowly. "Your ship crashed. Your boy found me. I brought you both to my cabin." He poured water into a cup and placed it near her. "Drink. You're very weak." Jera looked at the cup. Her hands were shaking. She didn't trust him, but her son was here. Alive. After a few seconds, she drank. James smiled. Good. My name's James. I live alone. You and your son can stay here until you're better. Jera stared at him. You trust aliens? James shrugged. I don't trust everyone, but I help when I can, especially kids. He pointed to the stew pot. You both need food. Jera looked down. She felt ashamed. I can't pay you. James shook his head. I'm not asking for anything, just rest. She lay back, confused by his kindness. That evening, Rin ran outside and played with James's old dog, Rusty. The boy laughed, a small sound that broke through days of fear. Inside, James cooked. Jera sat quietly at the table, watching him move. You cook for strangers? She asked. James smiled. Strangers or not, everyone needs a warm meal. Jera looked down. No one ever helped us before. We begged. We hid. People threw rocks. Even my own kind. She stopped speaking. Her voice broke. James sat across from her. Why were you running? Jera looked at her hands. My mate died during a border fight. He was a soldier. After he died, his clan said I brought bad luck. They blamed me, banished me. Her eyes filled with tears. No one would take us in. We wandered. Starved. I thought maybe humans would end our pain quickly. James was silent. Then he said softly, I didn't save you to watch you suffer. You're safe here, Jera. She looked up at him. Her lips trembled. She nodded once. Thank you. That night, as the wind howled outside, James gave them his own bed and slept near the fire. But he didn't sleep much, because outside the cabin, something moved in the trees. A soft beep echoed in the distance. A red light blinked high in the branches. A drone, silent and hidden, watched the cabin, and it was sending a signal. Morning came. Jera helped James in the kitchen. Rin swept the floor with a big smile. For the first time, it felt like a home. James showed Jera how to use his water purifier. He handed her a clean towel and soap. There's a bath in the back. You'll feel better after it. She stared at the items, unsure. He laughed. It's okay. I won't look. She smiled, just a little. But peace didn't last long. Before lunch, a loud knock echoed through the cabin. James opened the door and froze. 3 tall figures stood outside. Alien enforcers, metal armor, dark cloaks, cold eyes. One stepped forward. We are searching for a traitor, a woman named Jera and her offspring. James stayed calm. Never heard of them. The enforcer scanned the cabin. The drone saw, life signs enter here. We'll search the property. James stepped in front of the doorway. No, you won't. This is human territory. You have no rights here without permission. The enforcer's hand moved to his weapon. You protect her? That means war. James narrowed his eyes. Then let it come. The enforcers left. But their message was clear. They would return, and next time, they wouldn't knock.